Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the national community following us on the various platforms. Welcome to the Dip Center once more for what I hope will be a short press conference. I chose to come out today mainly because it is the last opportunity before an election to make myself available to you for any questions that you may have in relation to the season that we're in and some of the things that we have been dealing with. So I thought it was useful if I could come and just say to you how the government feels about the country at this time with respect to elections. All elections are important, whether it's a by-election, a THA election, a local election, a general election. We should be very proud and very happy that we are conducting our business by way of elections. And sometimes, some people get worried about the oratory of the election season and the election itself. I think we shouldn't be too worried as long as we keep the temperature within vocal responses and the oratory is reasonable. What I'm concerned about is the disregard, in some instances, for the potential for violence. We have to be careful with that. We've seen situations like ours that move towards violence, and that would be really unfortunate indeed if people become so invested in an outcome or so angered by a position that they resort to violence. Trinidad and Tobago has a very proud record of holding elections. And for those of us who have been in it for quite some time, I believe it's one of the treasures of the country that we do engage in elections. People win, some are not selected, and there has always been a safe change of authority where it's required, and that is not to be taken for granted. But we should really we should revel in the idea that we choose our managers by way of the democratic process. Excuse me. Some people say that democracy is far from perfect, but it is still the best arrangement that we know, and we subscribe to that. We did have a demand, a call for foreigners to come and look at our local government elections. I don't think we've ever done that, and I don't think that we're doing that on this occasion. Not that we have anything to hide, but because we have been able to manage local government and THA election with a stamp of approval from the country. Across the board, I've never heard a THA election where after the election there was dissatisfaction with the behavior of the election processes and so on. And by local elections too, we have many of those, and I can't recall after the local election there were any issues as to the outcome of the election. What we have had in recent times are people querying the general elections, and those queries have literally fallen by the wayside for being not supported by any serious, any serious evidence that warrants any rectification. And I see the Election and Boundaries Commission now being relentlessly attacked by people who are taking part in the electoral process. And all I will say to them is that that is not really warranted, and it is not going to help anybody get any more acceptance in the national population, because the Election and Boundaries Commission does not warrant that kind of persistent attack, not based on any fact to support what is being said. But that is not the only institution that is under attack in the political arena at this time. We have the police being under attack, the Election and Boundaries Commission being under attack, the Election and Boundaries, the Integrity Commission is now under attack. So it appears as though that is the politics of some. But again, that may be part of the democratic process, free speech. And of course, freedom to approve or disapprove. So I'm not going to be the one to say that, you shouldn't do it. If people think that that will help them in garnering support, then so be it. But by and large, I think we have 4 days to go for the elections, and I'm very comfortable that the country is well positioned and that everything from my reports around, as chairman of the National Security Council, I'm satisfied that things are in place to preserve our safety and security during the election culmination. And I trust that the police they've given the assurance that they will ensure that there's freedom of movement. I don't know that there should be anywhere where persons who want to go and vote should be concerned about it, and that is a matter that the police should pay attention to. But by and large, I think that all is well as we move towards the election weekend, and parties and individuals round off their campaigns. We would all do well if we do that without any damage or destruction. So that basically, we are in the middle of the vacation season. As you know, the Parliament is on vacation. I too am desperate for some vacation. I I was going to make a joke, but I'm not going to make it. It might be taken seriously. But I'm off to Barbados next week, Thursday. I'll be away for a few days, from the 17th to the 22nd. And this is not my doing, I should let you know. This is my family's doing, that they insist that I accompany them to Barbados, and I'm very happy to do that. So I'll be in Barbados, and I hope that I see some people there while I'm there, my political colleagues and some cricket fans. As you know, I have this assignment now to get involved in West Indies cricket, and I hope to start talking to some people out there, as I've been talking to people here in Trinidad. I've been talking to a lot of the legends, West Indies legends, who I'm hoping to get them involved in some discussions when I come back from Barbados. I want to have one of these virtual meetings with all who is available, and then after that I'm hoping to call some people to location, possibly in Tobago, so we can discuss this whole question of whether goes West Indies cricket, and hopefully in the new year we come up with some semblance of a plan for the West Indies cricket, and Trinidad and Tobago is to play a significant role in that. That's the one commitment that we make. It is important to us, and because it's a CARICOM assignment, I take it on as an assignment of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. But members of the media, please don't tell anybody that I'm in charge of West Indies cricket or I'm responsible for West Indies cricket. I am working with stakeholders in West Indies cricket to see if we can come up with a workable plan. So that's that. Other than that, I think I should leave you. With the questions, but I don't know if you are sufficiently well briefed. So, for the benefit of the public, I want to deal with one issue which came up yesterday. And that issue was a press conference that was held by the UNC. Wade Mark and Saddam Hussein, members of parliament, one from the House and one from the Senate. And I think these two parliamentarians have done a disservice to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. What they do to themselves is another story. But I think in attempting to damage me, they have done a disservice to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and that's why I think I should raise this matter with you now, so that you will not be further misled by any more of their misbehavior. It was clear, it has been clear for quite some time, that the UNC sees damaging me and my character as some kind of holy grail of theirs. when they're not accusing me of rape in the parliament, they come in election week in 2019 and telling the population that I have property that I have not declared, I have not disclosed to the Integrity Commission. Serious criminal conduct as far as they're concerned, as far as we're all concerned. That matter came up on a UNC platform in 2019, the election week of the Tobago House of Assembly election. My immediate response to that outrage was to produce my confidential form to show that I did disclose to the Integrity Commission my property, which is owned by my wife and myself, at Chauvin. I did that because what was being said is that I did not disclose this property and I had to hide it because some contractor gave it to me. That's what the UNC sold in this country. When they discovered that I did in fact buy it and it was there, they started a new campaign about how much I paid for it. And of course start making all kinds of allegations. That was for the election of 2019 in THA. Come and went. Then they wrote, Saddam Hussein wrote to the commission, putting in script much of what they were saying in relation to that property and my family, including my family members who I have no responsibility for, like my adult daughter and my wife, both gainfully employed and carrying on their life and using their resources. But that's not the point I want to raise here. The point I want to raise is they made reference, and the Integrity Commission is part of this problem. Because some people don't learn. The Integrity Commission caused to be published a headline in the Express, Rowley in breach. Now, every person in this country, seeing that the Integrity Commission has said that about me, and the UNC is on the outside, in lockstep, accusing me of what Wade Mark called criminal conduct. What are the facts? The facts are, as they pointed out in their press conference yesterday, I'm a parliamentarian of great experience. I've been in the parliament for 30 odd years. And they wanted to know why I am now trying to hide property and fool the population according to them. But by the same token, it is because I've been in parliament for so long that I know what I'm dealing with. And I know why I would not allow them to fool the population. You would have heard that there are two forms, a Form A and a Form B. These are prescribed forms, prescribed meaning approved by the Parliament in the legislation. And for those who have been in the Parliament nearly as long as I am, you will recall that there was a time when these forms did not exist. And the Integrity Commission had tried to go after people who had not been submitting their returns. And they came up against a legal hurdle, and that was they could not go against these people because these prescribed forms were not available. That's part of the evolution of the Integrity in Public Life Act. Then the prescribed forms became available, authorized by the Parliament. And the content of those forms authorized by the Parliament. The Parliament decided what of your assets will be under confidential, not visible to the public, and what of your assets would be visible to the public. That was decided by Parliament, not by the Integrity Commission. So the prescribed Form A exists there, which is very detailed and there's a prescribed Form B that exists there. I have been pilloried for the last almost 2 years on an interpretation between prescribed Form A and prescribed Form B. Because for the last God knows how long, as far as my memory serves me, I have always been putting my properties, all real estate properties, on Form A, and land without proper building on it on Form B. I have been doing that ever since I can remember filling out the form. But because of this attack on me, earlier this year, I think it was, I was moved to go with my lawyer to the Integrity Commission's office for them to produce for me to confirm that they have in their possession all of my Form A's where I have disclosed all of my property, real property, and B, where I have disclosed all land without buildings on it. I had to go there because the way I was being aggressively pilloried on this matter, I wanted to make sure that when we get to the court in disclosure stage, that the Integrity Commission could have disclosed to the public that I have in fact always disclosed all of my property. The UNC in the political arena has been saying that I have failed to disclose because I have not disclosed a townhouse on Form B. Yesterday, they went to town on me. A member of parliament, a former speaker, yesterday, in full public view, was on a roll. He called me a criminal for not disclosing my real property on Form B, where Form B asks for land. I want to show you, for those of you who don't know, this is Form B, right? This is a prescribed form. And nobody could issue an instruction to change what is on this form. Only the parliament can do that. I saw them waving around instructions saying that the commission say that you should do X, Y, Z on the form. Well, the prescribed form, as far as I am concerned, has not been amended by the parliament. Because if people want the form that says land to mean that land is all your property, then they will have to go to the parliament and get the parliament to do that. And you know something? They've made that proposal. You would have seen in the media the Integrity Commission saying in this melee that they helped to create, that they send something to the cabinet and implying that if the cabinet had done what the cabinet was supposed to do, in fact, I've seen that editorial in the newspaper saying that if the cabinet had done what the cabinet was supposed to do, then X, Y, Z was going to happen. That might be so. But the fact that it has not been done doesn't mean that you could change it of your own accord. This is what came to the cabinet on the 30th of October 2018. It's called Policy for the Amendment of the Integrity in Public Life Act 2201. This proposal is a proposal to amend the Integrity in Public Life Act, Chapter 2201. All of us know if you want to amend a law in this country, is one place it can be done, and that is in the Parliament. Are you with me? Okay. Let me take you to page 1 of the proposal here. In this document. I don't think it's page 1. I'm wrong with the page. It's a bit more than page 1. It's probably page 9. It's probably page 9. Because the next one is 10, so it has to be 9. And let me tell you what these proposals to the cabinet said. Right. Now remember, this is a proposal to amend the Parent Act. It says, and this is section 14, 1, which I see being quoted in the papers. It says, a person in public life shall file with his declaration under subsection 11, an additional statement of registrable interest. So the declaration is Form A. The registrable interest is Form B. What this is saying, a person in public life shall file with his declaration under section 11 an additional statement of registrable interest in the prescribed form, which shall contain the information required by subsection 3. So the information required by subsection 3 is what is going to go in Form B, which is the register of the registrable interest, right? You know what this proposal also is asking us to amend the law to do? On the following page, section 3E, beneficial interests held in any land. That is there now in black ink. In red ink, the amendment that is asked for, being proposed, is in red ink, and it says, or building. Let me repeat that. The proposal that came before the cabinet, which has not been made into law, is simply a proposal. On section 3E, it acknowledges that the existing E, beneficial interest held in any land, that is in red, and in black, and asking that in red, the amendment be you add in buildings. So what the proposal is saying is that they want to amend the parent law so that on Form B, where it says you fill in land as a beneficial interest, that if the amendment is made by the Parliament, the Parent Act will be amended to say land and building. But the Parliament has not done that. That proposal has not gone from the Cabinet anywhere, because the Cabinet was concerned that this attempt to amend the Integrity in Public Life Act, the proposals coming to the Cabinet were wide-ranging and far-reaching, well beyond what the Parliament had agreed to do when the Act was brought into force. And it has some areas which are of grave concern if one is allowed to amend the law as proposed. So it's simply a proposal. But the one thing that is absolutely crystal clear is that the Integrity Commission itself accepts that building is not required on Form B, and they're asking that in amending the Parent Act that you make building submitted on Form B. So I filed a declaration every single year until 2021. I've asked for an extension in 2022. I'm currently preparing that. So I'm up to date in my submissions of my declaration. And every single year in that declaration, I have listed every single property that I own or my wife is involved with. Understand? My adult children have property. I don't have to file for that. Yesterday, Wade Mark and Saddam Hussein slandered me in the worst possible way, calling me a criminal because I did not put my real estate property on Form B. And Senior Counsel Wade Mark, man, he went to church. He went to tongue. And Mr. Saddam Hussein, who's supposed to be a lawyer, just reached the parliament. But he knows what I should have known and what I should have done. Misleading the country, misleading the newspapers, misleading himself. But that's quite all right. But in so doing, they decided. Did you hear Wade Mark say that I'm a paragon of virtue, always talking about my integrity and my honesty? Well, I still do that. And I'm very proud of that. But he intends to change that. He intends to come and tell you that after the Integrity Commission has done a very aggressive and vigorous investigation of all their conspiracy theories and their additions and subtractions, the Integrity Commission ended their exercise. And they went as far as to say, calling other people's name, that the Integrity Commission may have done that because people wanted favors from the Prime Minister. And they have a free rein to slander and excoriate. And of course, they went on to talk about things that have nothing to do with the Integrity Commission. The purchase by my daughter of a piece of property in Tobago from a seller has nothing to do with Wade Mark, Saddam Hussein, and the Integrity Commission, whether they like the price or not. But of course, having concluded, there's a strange statement from the Integrity Commission, because I never asked them for any favor. I expect no favor. I expect them to do the job without fear or favor. And if the commission had found that I had not declared the property, it's still being published in the papers that I did not disclose a townhouse in Chauvin. If the Integrity Commission did in fact find that I did not disclose it, what are you doing not taking action against me? And then you have this false equivalence of the UNC saying that it happened to Basdio Pandey and it happened to this one, and why it's not happening to me. I can only speak and account for myself. I have no interest in what other people did or didn't do when it comes to defending my name and my character. And that is why I am in consultation with my lawyers, and all that they have to say in the press conference and wherever else they does meet, they will come and tell that in a court of law. You think it's easy for me to stomach Wade Mark calling me a criminal? Wade Mark from the UNC, and calling me a criminal because they have a different investigation going on than the one by the Integrity Commission? So the Integrity Commission discovered that I was involved in criminal conduct and give me a bly? That's what they're telling the country. That's what they're telling the country. Well, let them come and tell that to the court. And whenever the parliament makes this amendment, if it ever does, then that will be a horse of a different color. for a different day. But in the meantime, my oath of office, which I refer to all the time, I am sworn to upholding the Constitution and the law. And the law on Form B says that I tell the Commission and the country what land. I'm now hearing that in the English language, as per the Integrity Commission, land means something else. Well, if you know land means something else, why are you proposing that land be accompanied by an addition of an building in the proposal of 2018? Why? It is because the Commission knows. And an Integrity Commission is supposed to have integrity. All of this could have been avoided if the Integrity Commission had told the population that I did disclose in my declaration and that Form B does not require a disclosure, and they have made proposals to Cabinet to have buildings disclosed on Form B. And the Commission take it upon itself to be putting out, I'm seeing it for the first time, what do you call it? No, the instructions as to how you should interpret land. The Commission does not have the authority to change the prescribed form by any instruction, and they know it. And that is why they put in the proposal here that the Parliament amend the Parent Act. So if the Commission knows that, why is the Commission allowing this to happen in the country and to happen to me? For Wade Mark to be telling the country that I'm engaged in criminal conduct. The Commission knows that Form B does not call for building. And that is why the Commission has put in this document to the Cabinet that we amend the Section 3E and put buildings on Form B. And the reason is Parliament has said that what is on Form B should be visible to the public. What is on Form A remains highly confidential, and even the staff in the Integrity Commission is under serious penalty if they reveal what is in Form A. You know one of the proposals that they made to us in this thing here? Big proposal. To remove the word confidential from the top of the form. But even though it says confidential on the prescribed forms, it's also said the public can see it. Right? The public can see it. So, big proposal, take off the word confidential. Right? But we always know Parliament has put visibility on Form B and has not put visibility on Form A. Two prescribed forms. And because people have their own agendas, I am the subject of what happened yesterday, where two members of Parliament could call a press conference to call me a criminal for submitting my declaration as per the prescribed form. I just want to advise the media, don't let them carry you where they're going. Because from today, anybody else who accuse me of not disclosing to the Integrity Commission, I will sue you to the ends of the earth. But I tell you this today because I want to protect you from the UNC and from Wade Mark and Saddam Hussein. After what I saw there yesterday, they have no limit beneath which they will not sink. If you have any questions, I'll take them now.
Include the Integrity Commission itself, because they have said
I am consulting my lawyers, and I will be guided by my lawyers. My reputation is not to be trifled with.
Mr. Private Harry ACP News. When you spoke to the Integrity Commission about Form A and Form B, were it okay in how you fill out the Form B without the land?
I have been doing that from day one, to the best of my memory. And I went to the commission and I checked the most recent years, like the last 5 years, to make sure that what I'm saying here is correct. I have property in Goodwood Park, that's my oldest property, which I built in 1983. I think it was, or is it 85? I think 85, right? In the mid-80s. And I have been declaring that property ever since. Subsequently, I have acquired other property with myself alone or with my wife, and they always declared on your declaration. The addendum, the addition of Form B, where your registrable interests, there are 10 sections on Form B where your registrable interests are listed, not details of sums and so on. It's there. And I've been doing that consistently. And every year I send that to the Integrity Commission. I have never once had a query from the Commission saying that you have not put it on Form B, until Saddam Hussein and the UNC decide that Chauvin is to be made a political football.
And when you fill out your forms for 2022, you continue the same way Form B?
I downloaded the Commission's form from my computer and I fill it out the same way. The Chauvin property was bought in 2019. I had to report it in 2020 and all the years going forward. That's what I've done. 2020, when is the THA election? 2021. This problem started in 2021 when the UNC decided that they will scandalize me in the THA election. Like the same way you're doing election week here right now. Election is Monday. Look at what went on yesterday. It's all for the elections. So my reputation must be shredded and destroyed for election purposes. And they figure that is great strategy. Same thing they did in 2015. My dead father, they scandalized he too. That's what the UNC does. Scandalize the Election and Boundaries Commission. Yesterday they scandalized the Integrity Commission, but they have good reason to do that. Right? But I'm saying that the Integrity Commission ought not to have put me in this situation, and I said so in the press conference I had in Tobago in 2019. I said so. I said, I see the Integrity Commission go on talking about having investigation. What is there to investigate? You have my declaration in your possession. And then coming out now and telling the press about Form B and what is before the cabinet that they asked for, and not telling you that one of the things they asked for is to put on Form B that you must put buildings on the prescribed form. And whether they have the authority to amend the prescribed form is a matter for the lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. I take legal advice, as I'm taking now.
But has the Integrity Commission ever raised with you? I'm not sure about what they told Saddam Hussein.
On this matter?
Yes. Have they ever said all the properties that you listed on Form A, you have to put all those properties on Form B? Have they ever told you that directly?
Not to the best of my knowledge, because my lawyers have been talking to them from day one. So I don't know that my lawyers haven't told me that they told them that, and they never told me that. I have no correspondence that I'm aware of where the Integrity Commission says to me that for the last 30 years you were putting your declarations on Form A and you have not been putting properties on Form B. I see Wade Mark talking about how much is on Form A that should go on Form B. Let Wade Mark play lawyer for himself. He's no lawyer for me. Yes, Jude.
Prime Minister, does this issue cause you in government to look at the issue of legislation concerning the Integrity in Public Life Act or any amendments thereof?
No, I'm not mixing up my personal issue here with the government, right? But so to answer your question, there's a huge set of proposals before the government. Some of them simple, as I told you, to take off the word confidential off a form, and another one to determine what is made public and the powers of the Integrity Commission. Huge. Cabinet has been looking at it, and this is not a matter just for the Cabinet. This is a matter for Parliament. And it will have to be taken to Parliament by the Cabinet. The Cabinet has not been moved to broaden the powers of the Integrity Commission to do what they say they want to do. And of course, there was one simple matter the other day. I don't know if you're aware. The legal advice that the Integrity Commission got about the staff of the Integrity Commission, where the law, as we know it, says the staff of the Integrity Commission shall be public servants. That's the law. The current Integrity Commission decided that they want authority to appoint the staff. And that is just one of the proposals that, what are the kind of proposals that could be going forward. But the Parliament had already dealt with that, and I don't know that this current cabinet is minded to do that. So because a proposal is made doesn't mean that it has to find its way to the Parliament or that the cabinet must carry out somebody's instructions. This has been a very sensitive piece of legislation. As a matter of fact, this Integrity Commission, if we are not careful with it, it will make sure that people of integrity stay away from public service. Because if this is what's going to happen, you would do well to consider. Because a simple and straightforward matter like this, look at where it's at now. Did Saddam Hussein ever read this document? I don't know. But what I do know, this came to members of the cabinet. And any lawyer who would have read this and would have seen what the Integrity Commission is proposing as an amendment, which has not been done, whether you agree or not, it has not been done. So how could it be enforced? I didn't go to law school. Yes, John.
You said 2018 you received, the cabinet received the proposal. Since then to now, any counter proposal was made to
the cabinet considered it, and there's no counter proposal to be made. The question is if in the scheme of things the cabinet realizes or decides that the Integrity in Public Life Act is to be amended here or there, amendments would come. But that is not in front of me now. What is in front of me now is what is the law that I have complied with or have not complied with. That's what is in front of me right now. Whether it should have been amended or whether the cabinet should have dealt with it, I'm not dealing with that now at all. That's for another day.
So are you concerned about the Commission and not the Integrity in Life Act law?
I am saying again, an Integrity Commission ought to have integrity. That's what I'm saying. There's no way the Integrity Commission should have allowed this to reach where it reached. And now, telling the public, causing the Express to publish on the front page, Rowley in breach, and saying, well, he in breach, but we didn't bother to send him to the DPP, as though they're doing me some favor. And of course, the UNC latch on to that, and saying, he's in breach, and they're going there and they're going there. You could go wherever you want to go. We are all governed by the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. You go ask the Integrity Commission for a copy of this document, and you will see what they are proposing. The document is in red and blue, red and black. The black is what the sections are now, and the red is what they are proposing. It be amended too. Go and ask them for a copy. And when they give you a copy, you ask them, how come they could have had this in their possession? Acknowledging that Form B does not call for buildings. And you could persecute me and have the UNC persecuting me about not putting building on Form B.
Given the Integrity Commission's handling of this matter, what's your position? Have you lost confidence in the Commission?
I'm not going there. I'm staying where I am here today. I'm talking about where I am as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who yesterday, two of my parliamentary colleagues came before the country and called me a criminal. I'm not going further than that at all. Right? What happens to the Integrity Commission, whether I have confidence in them or not, that's another story for another day. But I'm saying the Integrity Commission had a duty when the UNC came with their mischief in 2021. When they came with their mischief in the Tobago elections, the Commission could easily have dealt with this matter. But instead, they sat back there and allowed the UNC to misbehave right up to where they reached yesterday, accusing me of hiding property and getting gifts from people and all kind of stupidness.
There may be an explanation for confusion, because I think it may have been the Valuation of Land Act that there is this very strange anomaly as to whether land includes building. Because I remember seeing it and having to research. I think it was when property tax was. I'm saying Mr. Imbert over there.
And wait a minute. If that is so, why are they asking for an amendment to put building on the form? If it is that there is some legal opening, that it must be understood that land mean land and house mean house without land, why are they asking in this proposal to the Cabinet to amend the Parent Act?
I'm just trying to get I mean, there may be laws in conflict with each other, where a definition of land may be given in one bill.
In conflict, or is it that the Prime Minister is a criminal? Which one? Because if there is law, if there's a conflict or a misunderstanding, then there's an issue of interpretation of the law. Fine, that is quite fine. That happens all the time, that you could have interpretations. But I have gone beyond that. I am now a criminal, according to them. So if there's an interpretation issue, there's a place for that. But I know what a prescribed form is. And I know how you amend the prescribed form.
Have you seen the guidelines that were published?
What guidelines?
The instructions.
No, I have not. I saw with Mark. I mean, I have not seen that. I don't know where that came from. I don't even know when it was generated.
If the Integrity Commission says that you are in breach, do you feel that you have done something wrong?
I have just told you I will take legal advice on that. Being in breach means that you have done something wrong. That's what it means. Why are we having no difficulty with the English language, you know? The law is there for me to follow. If it is said that I'm in breach of the law, it means I've broken the law. And if I've broken the law, who tell you to give me a bly? If you've determined that I've broken the law, go to the DPP with it, as they've done before. Because, you see, this is not the first time that I am subject to this, you know. And having done that, having allowed that statement to reach the front page of the newspaper in what is written by the Integrity Commission, you have the official opposition of the country now feeding off that and accusing me of being a member of parliament, a minister in office, who is a criminal because I broke the law in the Integrity in Public Life Act. And how did I do that? By not filing my property on Form B. And then loosely it is being put out, the Prime Minister did not disclose a tongue house. And then all these conspiracy theories calling everybody name, right? About some conspiracy theory where the Prime Minister is hiding something. My wife works very hard and doesn't interfere with anybody in this country, you know. Wait, Mark. Calling my wife's name. My daughter doesn't interfere with anybody in this country. She's not even in the country. Wait, Mark. Calling press conference to call her name. And asking questions. If you don't have the facts, then behave yourself. But you put yourself above the Integrity Commission that they could investigate and not find wrongdoing, but you could find it. Well, whatever you find, bring it to the courthouse.
Prime Minister, just wondering, you had mentioned legal advice over the years. You had not been told you didn't have, that you had to put the said information on Form B. I'm just wondering, did you ever have a conversation with any cabinet colleagues or other persons who...
My declaration is a private matter between me and the Integrity Commission. I do not discuss with members of the cabinet. Sometimes I see that their name published in the newspapers. That is a matter because they have an oath of office too, right? So I do not discuss my private affairs with members of the cabinet. So the answer to your question is no.
One of the issues that Mr. Hussein raised was that when your daughter bought the property, the deed was done by your wife, you're reconveyancing. Is there anything odd about that?
I should ask you. My wife is an attorney of long standing and is held in high esteem by everybody in this country except people like Saddam Hussein. I don't know that there's anything. And if there is something, then let the law take its course. I see they go into the fraud squad and they go into the OAS and they go into the European Union. There you go. If you believe that my wife is not fit to do a deed, then carry on.
What about the stamp duty? Question of the stamp.
They don't know what they're talking about, and there's a place to talk about that. When we get there, we'll talk about it. And when they want to slander you, they ask questions. I see all kind of questions being asked. If you don't know, then behave yourself.
These questions are being raised a few days before next Monday, which some people say, well, Monday is local election and possibly a dry run for what could come later on. Are you seeing any sort of motivations for these allegations and questions arising now, and how do you hope it will be received by the public, all these questions being asked? And
well, as I said earlier, that is a habit the UNC has at election time to make the most outrageous attacks on me personally in recent times, in the hope that it will be an election wedge issue. I don't know where you all were when we sat in the parliament and saw what Vanilla Allen Toppin did in 2015. Scandalized not only me, but my entire family. And you know who allowed that to happen? Wade Mark. Wade Mark gave permission to the UNC. He was the speaker. He gave permission to the UNC to blow up a picture of a house and bring that house inside the parliament. And members of parliament held it up in the house while Vanilla Allen Toppin was pointing to it as a house where I raped somebody in. What could be worse than that? What could be worse than that? And went on to say that not only I am a rapist, but my father was a rapist who raped my mother. That is what the UNC put on the parliament Hansard. And that was after they sent a reporter to my house, having asked me if I was home alone, and I said yes, and the reporter came, had nothing of any consequence to tell me, and when the reporter left, the next thing was the reporter resigned her job and said that I was improper with her in my house. You would know that, Express. And to this day, I am convinced that if my driver had not come back unannounced on that day, that reporter had been sent there to accuse me of sexual misconduct. And it was the return of my driver after I said I was home alone that saved me from that. That's what they do. THA election, I'm not a candidate in the election. In fact, last THA election, I hardly took part in it. Right? I went there once to put our candidates out, and I think I went to one public meeting after that. But they felt that if they came and bust this mark about me, and it happened, and it was so easy to deal with. All I did, I showed the press my Form A, which you would not see because the Integrity Commission can't show it to you. They can't show it to you. I could show it to you because I have a copy of it, and it's my form. But once it goes to the Integrity Commission, it is highly confidential. So when they did this in the THA election, I showed the media, I said, but this is not true. Look at it here, disclosed to the Integrity Commission. And then the goalpost shift to, well, it's not on Form B. And of course, since they can show that it's not on Form B, that is what was the basis for the parade yesterday. And I'm saying to you, anybody who is so in the know, claiming to be looking after the public interest, not wanting to mislead the public, you would have known that the Integrity Commission is asking that building be put on Form B by way of an amendment to the Parent Act. And in terms of how we take it, how do I take it? I expect better from my parliamentary colleagues.
I know you are unable to dictate the pace of your attorneys, but if you can, a time frame in terms of how soon the lawsuit would come?
I'm not answering that. I told you I'm going to be guided by my lawyers on this matter as to what I do, when I do it, and how I do it.
You revealed all your properties, in Form A. You have been
and land on Form B, right.
You have been in public life for over 30 years. What you have to say, people who might question, that you've done very well, on a politician's salary, to acquire so much land, have so many shares,
Paya, you sure you want to ask that? The one thing that you can rest assured, my family and I, we don't have anything that we claim that we can't explain how we got it. Let me give you a joke. My grandfather gave me his property when I was 17 years old. I got a deed for it at age 17. I built on that property 30 years later, right? You know what the UNC did? The UNC hired a light plane. Those days, there had no drone. They got a light plane to fly to Tobago, go over my house, take a picture of my house, and scandalize me and my wife and say, Emily Elias building that for me in Tobago as part of the Scarborough Hospital project. I have never been unemployed one day in my life, except when I was at university or in school, pre-university. I've been an earner, an above average earner since. But there are some people in this country who believe that certain people ain't supposed to have certain things. But I am not distracted by that. My wife and I, we work very hard, and we put what we earn to good use. And that is why when Wade Mark holds up a picture of 5 apartments being built in Tobago, I want to ask you, if after decades of earnings between my wife and myself, why is it a scandal to Wade Mark that we have built 5 apartments? Look how many people in Tobago build far more than 5 on means far less than ours, who don't even belong to Tobago. Am I bothering them? Why you have to scandalize us because we built something in Tobago? Well, if all your friends are thieves because they were in public life, you don't have to extend that to me because we can explain everything we've got.
checks are in place to ensure that the persons appointed to the Integrity Commission are suitably qualified and experienced? And do you think that this handling of this situation calls for a closer look at how people are selected for the commission?
I don't have an answer for that at this moment, this time. Because, as I said, people are people. There's no mold in which you put the human body and the mold will shape it to perfection. That mold, if it exists, is somewhere in heaven. But what I'm saying, though, this is simple, straightforward. And I know there are many people in this country who qualify to handle matters. You see, it is the hidden agendas that cause people to not rise to the expectation. President Robinson had made a statement once, and it hit me to the core of my stomach, when he said, the professional class has been consistently failing this country. As a professional person, a person with a profession, I took that personal. And he was right. He's right. Yes, one more. Yep, Joel, after one more.
All right, so this would, you willing to take question on other matters or only on this?
You have other matters? Yeah. Oh, we didn't get to the other matters section. Oh, right. Okay, a few minutes more here. Go ahead.
All right. We've heard the language by the opposition leader concerning the proposal for the Stand Your Ground legislation, which is similar, from what I can gather, to what is in effect in parts of the United States. You have raised or expressed your concerns about that, but I'm wondering, for persons who say, well, okay, the government is saying that model is not appropriate for Trinidad and Tobago, then what model would be appropriate in the context of persons with licensed firearms facing that kind of threat at their homes?
Well, the current law has provision for you to defend yourself in a way, and if you want to put it simply, if you're going to defend yourself having found yourself in that situation of grave danger, you have to convince yourself that you can explain it after it has been done and be seen to have acted properly. That is the measure of that law. The current law allows that. If it is that where we are now, with an increased level of bold-facedness by the criminal element, and what I call the criminal business is operating in a way that requires a review or even an education, because many people are not educated as to what is required in this whole self-defense thing. But what I can tell you for sure is that nobody is saying or has said that you cannot defend yourself in a self-defense situation. Self-defense is available to you under our laws. And you acting in self-defense is a judgment that you have to make. Right? And sometimes in self-defense, the best reaction is not to go on the attack. Because you have to make that judgment. It's a personal judgment and it is situational. And sometimes it's split second. Right? And you can't legislate down to the split second like that. You have to have general laws as we have. But we know what stand your ground is. We didn't invent that. It's not being invented here. And that's what you have to watch. You are importing into us, into our community, a label which exists outside of Trinidad and Tobago. And it was found to be required in a society that was heavily militarized. And the outcome was more violence. And in many instances, violence in the most horrendous way, where the truly innocent was at the receiving end of a person who claimed self-defense, stand your ground, and sorry you're dead. And we're saying, you don't just copy what the Americans are doing. You know our society, let's tailor what we do to our society, and if we have to make amendments, we do it in that context. There are people in the United States now, states in the United States, who are experiencing the existence of stand your ground laws and trying to change it. So if it is being held up to us here as a panacea for our problems in dealing with crime, then we're saying, well then, what is it we're not learning from the Americans that we figure we will learn here? And then we believe it is simply politics, electioneering, because the person who is advocating it was in fact a prime minister of this country. There's no schoolboy who graduated now and is now 20 years old and saying, we young people think that we should do. This is a prime minister who served as prime minister, who dealt with a crime wave in the same way, because this crime and criminality that we're facing is not new. This prime minister, in response to it, declared a state of emergency. So to come now and say you've suddenly got a brainwave that will import into Trinidad and Tobago the militarization of the country and give everybody who wants a gun, and you stand your ground, that is just election politics.
The review that you said, if you think that the government thinks it's necessary, would that include, because you just said something just I wanted to follow up on, do you think that the system presently should be amended to allow people to have more or easier access to licensed firearms, or do you think it needs to be more stringent? What is the government's position?
The system that we have now, which we have been using, was one that was not aiming to arm everybody in a broad sense. It was one that a certain number of firearms were made available every year on an ongoing basis to persons who were very heavily vetted and so on. But the demand for firearms grew considerably more as the crime levels became more frequent and the crimes became more violent. Okay, so there's an increased demand. But that does not mean that you swing the pendulum all the way from one side to the other side. Because more guns on that scale does not necessarily automatically mean more security. It could, like in the United States, mean more shooting, more killing, right? It could. That's what their experience is. One of the biggest issues in the United States today is people being afraid to send their children to school because they might become the victims of gunfire. It wasn't always so. And since we are not there, why do you want a Gallup to go there? They've been there and they're telling you they want to leave there. Why you want the Gallup to go there?
So, Prime Minister, do you think we should review the way FULs are given now? Do you think?
Well, we certainly have to review it. I could tell you that now. Because the current arrangement, as it stands, it was the Commissioner of Police who was a singular arbiter on who gets a firearm in this country. And following the government policy of making haste slowly in putting more guns into society, right? What we have experienced demand that that be reviewed because it has been abused, and to the extent where the firearms unit in the police service had to be literally shut down and be subject to serious investigation, forensic investigation, to be able to try to account for arms and ammunition and the country's state with respect to the importation of arms and ammunition. That's where we are. As a result of that, that has disrupted the flow of firearm license going out. I see somebody suing the Commissioner of Police because of the lack of response and so on. So these are complications that flow. But certainly, from the experience we've had in the last, I would say the last 36 months, we certainly have to review that, but what comes out of the review, I can't say today.
Is there even a proposal presently by the government? Because you're saying you have a system where one person basically authorizes licensed firearms. Are you suggesting it shouldn't be one person but a board of people? Or?
Well, those are the things that the review, the government is going to be moved by the recommendations to come once the audits and the reports are all collated, and then the cabinet will have to take a decision.
And who are the members of this committee that doing this review?
So the government. There are a number of things right now, and the government is the cabinet. It will all end up before the cabinet eventually. And the government will have to take a decision. One, how much we militarize society. Two, how it is done. And we really should be trying to lower the level of violence in Trinidad and Tobago. That is the ultimate objective. We need to bring down the level of violence in this country. And I don't know anywhere where it is brought down with guns and more guns. It's usually the other way around. And people will show you the Japanese society where they virtually have no violent gun crimes, and the United States where they have all the guns and they have the most gun crimes. So we in Trinidad and Tobago, we need to be careful what we are swallowing and be more reasonable in our approach. And the worst place to discuss something like this is in a political platform season where people see it as a go-to position in the politics. But again, I mean, everything is politics. Everything is politics.
The Cabinet, Prime Minister, has to do more with illegal guns rather than FUL holders. Why do you target a policy towards, you know?
We have said a lot, and we have done a lot with respect to, I think we're all on the same page with respect to the illegal guns. What we are discovering is that we have problems with the management and the accounting for the legal supplies as well. That is the problem we have, over and above the illegal ones. There's no illegal gun in the firearms unit of the police service, or there ought not to be any. But I'm telling you, over and above what we have to do with the illegal entry and the illegal guns, we still have serious problems with the management of the legal side.
The majority of the crime is not being perpetrated by FUL holders, it's being people with illegal guns.
Well, that may be so, but I'm not here excluding or highlighting any. It's a broad canvas, and there are all problems here and there. I said earlier, and I'm saying again, as I speak to you now, as chairman of the National Security Council, I am not satisfied that we can account for the ammunition that has been bought and brought into Trinidad and Tobago. And for me, that's a big problem.
Prime Minister.
Finally.
Eighth years in office, the PNM celebrating a milestone anniversary. And how would you describe the anniversary? How would you rate the performance of the party over the last 8 years?
Well, I think the party has done very well. The party has been selected to be the government at a very testing time. We came in September 2015 when we had serious economic decline, serious revenue contraction, and very, very difficult markets. And then we had a pandemic which literally strangled us for 2.5, almost 3 years. We had difficulty maintaining our standard of living and our quality of life, but we managed to do that. We had to make significant adjustments in some of the regular things that we have done, that we have to do. We tried to restart the economy. We've restarted the economy. We've got some economic growth. There's some positive news on the diversification where the non-oil sector has survived and has grown. We've maintained our social support systems. We've raised our international profile considerably. We've got our CARICOM arrangements in place. So I think a lot of good things have happened during that 8-year period. And of course, if one go down to the more detailed levels, some of the, if you may recall, in the first year the government was in office, the biggest issue on which the government was being pilloried was the Tobago ferry. Remember that story? We had actually got to a point where we had no ferry because the Express and the other one, Spirit, were driven to a point where they couldn't go any further, and we were confronted with that. That is no longer with us. We have two of the best ferries in the world, so that problem has been solved. But usually, as you solve one problem, a new one appears somewhere else. There's never a day when we don't have problems to deal with. And I think the government has done quite well in a very difficult situation. We've done reasonably well. We are not perfect. We have not been as successful at everything as we've done. But when you look at the success that we had in closing off the CLICO matter, recovering substantial sums of money, assets to the state on the CLICO bailout, we created the NIF, which has now been created and moved to the first, we come to the end of the first tranche. So these are successes that we must acknowledge. There was no NIF when we started out. We didn't have, we didn't know where the CLICO money was going to come back to us. We had to go to court. We went to court. The court ruled in our favor. We got putting CLF into liquidation. We didn't have full support in that. Many people thought that that was crazy. It was done, and it has worked very well for the country and for taxpayers. We got back $921 from OS that was removed from the contract. That was that the UNC on the last day of office took out the clause from the contract to allow the contractor to go with the bonds. We went to court and got the court to authorize us to get that money back. Eh? We are now facing arbitration for the aluminum smelter. We faced billions of dollars in claims at Point Lisas from the companies at Point Lisas. We were able to negotiate away most of those claims. And of course, we were able to negotiate with oil companies where in the existing contracts, we were able to get billions of dollars more from the contracts that were in place. So these are all good things that have happened, and I think the government has done very well in a very difficult situation.
Any failures, any regrets within that 8 years? Because you spoke of all the goodness that
we have not been successful at everything we have done, but I think that we lost touch, I should say, politically with the population in Tobago, and there was a price we paid for that. I think that was one of our failures. We were able to save some things, but I don't know that there are many failures that we've taken some brave steps that so far have worked out to us, right? And I think we need to just, be a little patient about some things, and our fundamentals are strong, but not without some red flags. Our gas production is not what it used to be. We have to find sources of gas. And of course, the market for gas is now under question, where there are people who are saying that you should not be increasing your production of oil and gas. But I'll tell you a little secret. While we have been suffering from reduction in gas production and been struggling to find new sources in Venezuela, the United States has increased their production by 4-fold. So we know we are on safe ground with respect to using the resources that could be available to us. Thank you all very much. It's being looked at and it's being considered, and hopefully when the Minister of Finance does the next budget, that might be one of the things that he might be touching on. I don't want to speak for the Minister of Finance, but we're trying to see, one of the things you mentioned, failures. I'm sorry that we were not able to get an agreement with the Public Service Union so that whatever the government could have afforded, that money could have been made available immediately to the public service. The fight to get more and not being able to put that money in public servants' hand earlier, I think that's one of the failures. But I hope that that will not be with us for too long. It's with the tribunal now, and whatever the tribunal rules, the government will move with alacrity to get it into public servants' hand, because we understand that, they've been, in a situation where they deserve an increase, but we have to stay with what the country can afford. We don't want to do something today for feel good, and then it creates a situation for feeling horrible. Thank you all very much for coming, and thank you very much for covering. Thank you.
TTT News, delivering more news more often to more people. TTT News, reporting on the people, events, and issues that affect your life. TTT News, online and fully interactive at TTT Live Online. TTT News, first at 6:30 p.m. TTT News.